Pakistan wishing Pakistan away. Pakistan cannot be wished away just because we want it. That's not going to happen. First point is to uh, would be a big policy shift if we agree that Pakistan will have to be dealt with. It will have to be part of a strategic calculus, and we will have to address the issue of difficulty that we have with Pakistan. We will have to somehow make peace with Pakistan, and making peace with mean does not mean we are being weak. It means now we're going to put on our strategic cap and see what we can do to solve this problem rather than wishing away Pakistan or saying it has been isolated, they're dying their own suicidal death, etc., etc.
Tensions are simmering between India and Pakistan in the aftermath of the Pahalgam massacre that killed 26 tourists in the scenic Jammu and Kashmir. In the aftermath, a lot has happened so far between the two countries in terms of military and in terms of diplomatic standoff as well. To get a clearer picture on this, we are joined today by Anju Gupta, who is a security analyst and, of course, the former Director General of Police. Anju, welcome to the Indian Express. To start with, how crucial is it for India to integrate Pakistan into its strategic security vision rather than trying to ignore or to isolate it?
Pakistan is an immediate neighbor, and we have a boundary of more than about 3,000 kilometers with Pakistan.
Yes.
And borders are always very crucial. Neighbors are always very crucial for any country to progress, to look after one's security, prosperity, and interconnections that you have beyond geographies. So Pakistan is a direct neighbor and a troubled neighbor. So it's very important to keep Pakistan in the strategic calculus that we have for ourselves, for security, stability, prosperity, and growth. Pakistan wishing Pakistan away. Pakistan cannot be wished away just because we want it. That's not going to happen. And I'll give you two examples. Look at the wars in Gaza and Ukraine. Very troubled neighborly relations between Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Palestine. Now, what has it led to? It has led to continuing of multi-year war. The economies are bleeding because both the neighbors tried to wish away their neighbors. I'm saying it without taking any position on the matter as to who's right, who's wrong. I think these are examples before us not to do the same.
Absolutely. Given the recent terror attack in Pahalgam, how would you describe the current ground reality in Pakistan itself?
Pakistan, the reality in Pakistan has not changed for decades. It's the army which controls the security policy, foreign policy, and they also very openly manipulate their polity, their elections, like what they have done with the current government. They locked up Imran Khan. They manipulated the counting, the counting process, locked him up, and they installed weak. I don't want to use the word puppet, but very weak government that can be manipulated because they are weak. They can be manipulated. Legitimacy becomes an issue when there is manipulation. But the backlash is felt by the polity, the governments of the day, and not so much by the Pakistani army. And in the process, they are able to install their favorable puppets on people in the top echelons of army, in judiciary, in government, and bureaucracy, and that is how they operate. So it's an indirect power, but it has a direct manifestation in Pakistan. It's the reality of Pakistan, which hasn't changed for decades. So I think we need to understand this reality and be able to navigate through this complexity of Pakistan.
Right. I also want to talk to you a little bit about the Pakistani army and its influence. Over the years, generals come and go, but the role that the Pakistan army continues to play in shaping both the foreign policy and the security policy, especially towards India. What are your thoughts on that?
This is the plan. This is how they work. They work to a plan whereby the top echelons of the army, they stay united. And when they stay united, they are able to play. And because historically they've had a stranglehold over polity and election process, they've kind of, made it into a self-perpetuating machine kind of a mechanics which plays out in Pakistan.
Right.
So army is united, their top brass is united. They historically have set themselves, have an upper edge. And the polity also kind of falls in line because of greed for power. So the politicians also kind of play along with the army to get power. So I think these are the factors which have kind of sustained army to have the kind of overarching role that they have.
Correct. Now, when something happens between India and Pakistan, especially in terms of geopolitics, it doesn't just stay there. The entire Southeast Asia sort of gets sucked into it. Now, this evolving chill and dynamic between India and Bangladesh that is currently there, do you think this is one factor that Pakistan might exploit?
Absolutely. Pakistan might exploit, and Pakistan has already started exploiting it. One, by again communalizing what is happening in Bangladesh, playing it up. I think all sides are playing it up, which
Mhm,
doesn't help anybody.
mhm,
Second is by re-establishing their links in Bangladesh, which had not been there or had weakened over the last 15 years or so. So Pakistan has now taken many steps to, diplomatically, through trade and through other means, trying to kind of get a foothold in Bangladesh. And once they do it, I have no doubt in my mind that they will try and create a proxy space for proxies, even in Bangladesh, which used to be there 15 years ago or so. And this current government in Dhaka, let's accept
right.
it. It's a weak government, relatively weak government. I don't see that they have the capacity to deal with what Pakistan could unleash on them as well as on India. So the current state of hostilities between India and Bangladesh can definitely be exploited by Pakistan. We should be aware.
Right. I also want to talk to you about China. China is pragmatically engaging with India while also sort of remaining militarily active on the borders. How does this complicate, if at all, it complicates the India strategy of Pakistan?
One, our forces are stretched because now we are manning the Chinese border as well. Earlier on, we were only manning more aggressively the border with Pakistan, and that is the reason why I think the ceasefire between India and Pakistan is holding on.
Mm,
Despite everything, the ceasefire has not gone because I think there is an appreciation that now both our borders have become, uh, I would say, hot. If not hot, at least they are source of worry. And in Pakistan, and Pakistan Army has very good relationship with the Chinese establishment.
mhm,
And so it's a yeah it's so it today our forces are stretched, and secondly the border by Pakistan and China can at some point in time can coordinate. I'm not saying they will do it, can coordinate border action if they so decide. So that is something we will have to be very mindful of as of
of
today.
course, of course. And then we have India's current global alliances, with the United States, then you have France or even Japan for that matter. How effective do you think these friends or allies of India will help in neutralizing Pakistan's proxy war tactics?
I think proxy, one, Pakistan Army's overarching place has created a game of proxy war because that is how Pakistani army tries to maintain its primacy, create problem for neighbor. When you feel the backlash, then you say, look, I can only save you. So it's a game. It's a
Yeah,
policy. See,
yeah.
war is a policy. This is something which has come out of the Afghan Jihad 79 to 89. But
Mm,
Pakistan has carried on with this for the last 36 years.
mm,
So if the world wants Pakistan to give up this policy of proxy war, this is
mm.
something cannot be done in isolation. And Pakistan is also well connected with other countries of the world. They also have stakes. And there are countries who will have similar concerns that we have with regard to existence of terror infrastructure or proxy groups in Pakistan. I think they can be brought in as allies. India has regional and global networks that can be used to, to devise strategy. I wouldn't say force, devise strategy to get ultimately Pakistan to give up the proxy battle as a policy.
Absolutely. Speaking of proxy wars, Express viewers, you can read Anju Gupta's article on proxy wars and India's and Pakistan's stand on the entire issue on the official website of the Indian Express. Anju, my next question to you would be that your article clearly mentions that India needs a mature public diplomacy. So, what should India's public messaging be? Because this has also sort of become this tension, a tension, an interfaith tension between Hindus and Muslims. So, overall, what should India's messaging be, both domestically and internationally?
I think the first point is to uh, would be a big policy shift if we agree that Pakistan will have to be dealt with. It will have to be part of our strategic calculus, and we will have to address the issue of difficulty that we have with Pakistan. We will have to somehow make peace with Pakistan, and making peace with mean does not mean we are being weak. It means now we're going to put on our strategic cap and see what we can do to solve this problem rather than wishing away Pakistan or saying it has been isolated, they're dying their own suicidal death, etc., etc. So first is the change of mindset. That I
Hmm.
think is very important.
Hmm.
And second, I think is it's very important to understand the complexities of Pakistan. So when we say Pakistan, it is actually Pakistani army that rules the roost. It's very important to understand that there are problems within Pakistan which are very glaring, and Pakistani army also creates many other problems so as to deal with their domestic pressure.
Correct.
So it's very important to understand the reality of Pakistan. It's not a moral, it's not one identity, it is Pakistani army. So
Hmm.
when we understand a situation well, then I think it becomes easy to find a strategic path to address it. And the third point is, as I said earlier, use or build or strengthen our regional and global partnerships through various means. There are many international tools that can be used to you know to get Pakistan to understand that there's a cost, there's an economic cost, there's a
Hmm.
diplomatic cost
Hmm.
for pursuing this policy. So I think this has to be. We will have to bring other powers on board, not just use of force, use of strategy. But
Of
use of
course.
force may be part, yeah, but use of strategy, to me, it's a time for a strategic shift to address this issue.
Correct. Now, how important is it for India to keep playing this longer game with Pakistan while we sort of, balance military responses as well as the diplomatic pressure?
There are four kinds of responses that any nation would give: security, intelligence, diplomatic, and kinetic. Kinetic is
Hmm.
basically for effect. Intelligence, you understand; security, you understand; and diplomatic. So
Hmm.
these responses are given to for mitigation, for prevention, to satiate, to satisfy your own, public domestic clamor for action. But on top of it, there has to be a strategic response, which is a long haul. India has to muster a lot of patience and wisdom to say that we will sort this out.
Hmm.
And no, we know in today's age and age, war is no option. If you're not going to go to war, then you need to go to a strategic war. I'm talking
Hmm.
about a strategic war on Pakistan, which has to be decisive, long haul. There has to be bipartisan support for it in India's polity,
Hmm.
and very patient. A lot of patience would be required. Perseverance would be required to use strategy as a foremost means.
Correct. In your view, do you think a peaceful relationship with Pakistan is possible in the next decade, or given the current situation, are we headed for more conflict?
It can be. I wouldn't give you a timeline because I'm. I. It's difficult to say so because we need to say how what actions are being will be taken. Um,
Yeah.
but Russia and China are two
Hmm.
countries. Glaring example. They had such hostile relationship. They had so many border issues, and they have very long borders. And the other thing, Russia and China have over the years sorted out their problems completely,
Hmm.
and look at them. They are reaping huge benefits of being allies,
Yeah.
right? So both the
Yeah.
countries are bringing prosperity to each other, security assurances, diplomatic heft. It's an example, and there are many other examples. So yes, it can be done. The states that look like enemies have ultimately bought peace. So buying peace does not mean become bosom pal. It means that you have working relationship and you agree not to use proxy battles. Fight other battles, economic battle, fight, fight diplomatic battle, etc., but don't use proxies.
Correct. Should India focus more on building internal strength and economic power rather than getting entangled in constant retaliation because it sort of drains the resources?
So strategy, one part of strategy is to go on building your own strength and networks.
Mm.
Bring in more partners into this whom you can explain, right? And all I'm saying, single out one point. Please give up the policy of using proxies against your neighbors. Just one point, right? Rest of the wrangling that happens between neighbors and governments can continue. I'm not saying they're going to stop, but this is one point which is actually becoming a flashpoint again and again and again. And it kind of, if there is an accident, supposing there's a nuclear accident between the two sides, somebody uses nuclear or very bad conventional crisis is there, conventional weapons are used in a very bad manner, then anything can happen. Our growth also will be stalled. Our social cohesion will also be challenged. So India's march to a bright, prosperous future will be stalled if the accident happens with Pakistan. So I think we need to get this out of our way. So take a pragmatic, smart, as I said, pragmatic, smart politics is needed to buy peace with a tough neighbor like Pakistan. But it can be done.
Absolutely. What kind of global networks should India invest in today to shape Pakistan's behavior tomorrow?
One example that I've given in the article is of using FATF, Financial Action Task Force, which has been very successful in tying Pakistani army down for at least 3 years. And this is how they got Pakistan to release Mullah Baradar, co-founder of Taliban, who was delivered he'd been locked up for 8 years and who was delivered for these Doha talks. And even Doha talks were not disrupted by Pakistan. It was FATF pressure which was working because that meant huge economic distress to Pakistan. Apart from a very important political signal that so many countries were aligning against Pakistan on the issue of terror. So both things were working. Economic sanction and I think also a fear factor, a factor that so many countries were aligned were against you. So FATF could be one. We could go to FATF and request to put Pakistan on blacklist, right? And it's a process. I'm not saying it's going to happen over a year, over 15 days or so, but we could start working to it. And it was under Trump 1.0 that Pakistan had been put on grey list, and now we have Trump 2.0. So President Trump is already familiar with what has happened in this region. Number two, US has been, slapping sanctions against Pakistan on the issue of, acquisition of missiles and nuclear weapons, etc. Now, this is where we can actually align with the US and, make this exercise successful. That is something which will also bring huge pressure on Pakistani military, and they realize the cost of, using proxy battle. How much they have to pay, the price that they have to pay for proxy battle with even, in their own areas. So these are two examples which come to my mind immediately, but there are many other forums that can be used.
I asked you to define this proxy war mechanism between India and Pakistan. How would you define it overall?
See, proxy means a terror group. So when the terror groups and the armed groups are funded, trained, they're given weapon, they are kind of, there's a facilitation for cross-border movement, etc., propaganda. Then, this is called a proxy war. This is something which kind of came to this region during the Afghan Jihad in 1979, when the proxies were armed against USSR in Afghanistan. And then on, this proxy war has stayed back in this region as a policy and wrecked this region. I think South Asia's biggest challenge is proxy battle.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, if you had to outline a roadmap to peace with Pakistan, what would be your 3 key pillars?
First, accept that Pakistan is part of your strategic calculus. You're not wishing away a neighbor. Second, I think it's very important to understand Pakistan's complexities rather than, saying that it is their problem. It is their problem, but we need to understand the reality. And third is to very actively, engage in public diplomacy so as to so as to allow this strategic shift in our thinking percolate down within and with our partners. I think that's very important to send a signal that we are going to, now be using strategic path to strategic war, I would say. Let's call it a war. We'll be using a strategic war. We'll be indulging in strategic war against Pakistan. So these three things I think would be very important.
Absolutely. So, according to our expert Anju Gupta, Pakistan has to stop this act of proxy wars. But at the same time, India has to understand that we cannot do away with a neighbor, and that neighbor has to be integrated into the strategic plans that you mentioned. Anju, thank you so much for speaking to us. And Express viewers, keep watching the official YouTube channel of the Indian Express for more updates on the simmering tensions between India and Pakistan.